favorite scary movie.
Well, sometimes that is better.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
Demons to some, angels to others.
Do you want to play a game?
Here's Johnny!
The funeral is about to begin.
Never sleep again.
Hey, Elmers, 13th Elm podcast back. Here's at Rob's house. I'm here with Bill and Michael.
What's up, everybody?
Hey-yo!
You guys happy to be back?
Absolutely. Been looking forward to it.
We were gone too long. I know that I've been getting emails and even snail mail asking where we've been, but the hiatus is over. If you're not Andrew,
Someone
we're
came
back.
to my house,
Really?
knocked on my front door.
Was it a census taker or like
No.
Mormons?
Jehovah's Witness?
Yep.
Yep. Definitely
I
not
mistook her as an Elmer.
13th Elm. Definitely not an Elmer. Also, if an Elmer shows up to your house, that's terrifying, and I don't want that to happen.
Was talking to me for a while. I thought it was about a new movie.
Oh yeah?
What was it called?
What was the plot?
Mother.
I think I've seen that.
I did not see that one, actually, but it doesn't matter.
Anyway.
Anyway, we're back, and today's movie is Van Helsing. 2004, directed by Stephen Sommers, starring Hugh Jackman, Kate Beckinsale, Richard Roxburgh, and Schuler Hensley. And along
Great name.
Schuler.
Schuler Hensley?
Very,
Hensley.
very German. And Kevin J. O'Connor, who we'll get into here in a minute. But PG-13, 2004, 2 hours, 11 minutes runtime. Budget, $160 million.
Where did that go?
Pretty substantial. There's a lot, actually.
I know.
I did not like this movie. This is a bad movie. I'm just going to put that out there right now. But they spent a lot of money on this, and we're hoping to make it into a franchise. And there was a lot of exposition to build up that franchise, and we'll get into that later too. But this is part of the Universal's dark universe. Like they wanted to make all the Universal monsters from the 30s into an MCU style shared universe with a bunch of like kind of action horror movies, and they tried over and over and over again.
They're still trying.
They're still trying.
But we're getting ready to ramp up for the fourth attempt at this, to be honest.
So the first one, and actually Stephen Sommers directed this too, was The Mummy with Brendan Fraser in 1999, which is
A way better film.
a way better film, and like it is what it is. It's a fun action horror comedy. It's not breaking the mold. It's not high art. It's just fun, and Brendan Fraser's great in it. It's a fun movie. Then they did Mummy Returns, and then he wrote and directed this. Apparently, he was like on vacation, and the idea came to him. So it basically follows Van Helsing, who's played by Hugh Jackman, who's sort of like a jet, not a jet because it's like 1500, but he's like a jet-setting kind of monster hunter of sorts that works for the Vatican.
Yeah.
And he's trying to stop Dracula. That's basically the movie. So after this came out, then there were multiple attempts to try and get this dark universe. So it was Dracula Untold, which was like semi-historical, but also they're like, oh, don't worry that Vlad killed like thousands of his own people. He fought the Turks, so he's a good guy. And then there was the Mummy reboot with Tom Cruise in 2017, also huge flop.
They've abandoned that entire thing based off of the flop of that single movie.
Exactly.
They are repackaging, and I think the next one, and excuse me for cutting you off, maybe you're going to get to this, but James Wan is actually directing one of the new, it might be a Frankenstein movie coming out in like 2023, or maybe he's just producing it. But I know James Wan is involved in a new round of the Universal reboots.
Well, I mean, pick a guy who's done horror movies and superhero movies. James Wan.
Yeah, and done them successfully. I mean, this guy's made so much money off The Conjuring and Saw and
Aquaman.
yeah, this dude's made a ton of movies. Fast and Furious. He did Furious 7, which is the highest grossing Fast and Furious movie prior to this most recent one, I believe.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's made a fuckload of money.
Your references are out of control, bro.
Sorry.
No, I was not aware of that, actually. The one that I had seen that's in production is called Renfield, which, it's Dracula's lawyer / familiar. And it's supposed to be a horror comedy, and it's starring Nicholas Hoult, who I like. The name sounds familiar, the picture sounds familiar, but I didn't actually go onto IMDb and see what else he's been in. There's also The Wolfman, which is 2010 with Anthony Hopkins. Terrible movie. You thought this was slow and boring?
I haven't even told you what I think about this movie yet. Buckle up. I will tell you what I think of this movie when it's my turn.
Look forward to it. But Wolfman, I saw it. Not a good film. And then actually the most recent one is probably their best so far, which was The Invisible Man with, what's her name, Elizabeth Moss.
I've heard that's really good. Actually, I haven't seen it. And somebody just recommended it to me the other night again. And it is on my watch list. And we'll talk about it, but I love, and I know you're not surprised by this, I absolutely adore all of the original Universal monsters.
Oh, I know.
That is just so up my alley. It's
part of why it's so satisfying to watch this film.
I figured that might have had like just a tinge.
So, because you're such a fan, there are some cool little trivia bits about this film that fold into the original 30s and 40s monster films. First off was that where they're shooting, where Van Helsing and Anya are fighting the brides in the Transylvania town.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That set is on Universal Studios. It's called the Miracle Court.
Yeah, I've been there.
And have you really?
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's
part
awesome,
of the
man.
tour.
Yeah, it is. It is part of the tour, and it's where they shot Dracula. It's where they shot the Wolfman. It's where they shot
So
Frankenstein. Cool. It's where they shot. I think there was one other one they shot there, but so there's that. Carl the Friar is named after the guy who was the CEO of Universal during the 30s when these movies were released.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Hyde and Dr. Jekyll, not a Universal monster at all.
No.
In fact, it was owned by their rival MGM, but because Universal made Abbott and Costello, they were able to use that IP, so they were able to kind of get around it. But yeah, they tried to do an animated series, I think 2 years later, that flopped, and then there were talks of doing a live action because the town they built in Romania, they spent so much money on it that they basically were it's too nice to tear down, so let's use it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Van Helsing did not come to fruition with that. There was also a plan to do a cameo with the creature of the Black Lagoon in the scene where they crush through and Frankenstein's in the underground cavern, but that was all cut before production happened.
Damn.
That would have been fun.
I know, right?
I love Gilman.
Do you really?
I do.
I feel like he's the weakest of all of them.
Oh my gosh, get out of here. Creature from the Black Lagoon is probably the strongest and most critically acclaimed original Universal film.
More than Dracula.
Yes.
I don't believe you.
Well, let's get into it then. We're going to watch Creature from the Black Lagoon sometime and do a review together. And the Elmers are going to be just
bored.
Just bored, yeah. This movie came out, I think Creature of the Black Lagoon came out in 1952.
It was one of the later ones, yeah.
Yeah, it is one of the later ones, which is probably why it's one of the better ones, honestly. Just saying.
When was Dracula 30 something?
31, and
31.
so was Frankenstein, and then
Bride of Frankenstein was 34, I believe. I could be wrong.
I don't think I've seen any of them, to be honest.
Wolfman was 41, and yeah, that's all I have for dates. Yeah, I haven't seen them either, man. I
can't bring myself to it, man.
Well,
maybe
you're
if
going
it was,
to.
If I was paying university for a film study class, I would then watch those films.
Guys, you're talking all this mess like we didn't just watch Van Helsing.
Yeah, but
Get out of here. Also, Bride of Frankenstein was 1935. And that is also one of the more fondly remembered Universal monster films.
I have a couple more trivia, and then we'll get into the actual movie. Jackman had hair extensions for the film.
I saw that.
This big curly hair.
I saw that, and I was not surprised at all. I actually have a note that I wrote about how much I disliked his hair before I even learned that, and I was like, "Oh, that."
But you love the hat, right? The hat they kept focusing on.
Oh my gosh!
There
Yes.
was a 2009 reboot slated with Guillermo del Toro directing and Tom Cruise as the lead as Van Helsing, but it got scrapped.
Yeah, because Guillermo del Toro is not a moron, and he pulled out.
Morons don't pull out.
Exactly.
And then, of course, Tom Cruise would go on to, like, 8 years later, do the Mummy reboot, which was a total flop.
You know, I don't really have a lot to say about Tom Cruise other than he needs to stop.
Tom Cruise, if you're listening, stop.
I liked Edge of Tomorrow. That's all I'll say.
I love Minority Report, but also I haven't seen it in 15 years, and I'm sure when I re-listen to this and rewatch that, I'll be embarrassed.
This movie is terrible. Yeah, and then all the brides did their own stunts on all the flying scenes and stuff, which is kind of cool.
They were a highlight for me.
Apparently, one of them,
I have some notes.
Sylvia, which I'm not sure which character bride she played, she's terrified of heights, so she's not the one that's upside down in that scene where she's the one that dies, Matrishka, or Marishka. And then the two are like upside down, like, oh, we lost Marishka. Oh.
So she's the first one that died.
She's the first one that died.
That is something that I noticed when I was watching the film, and I even mentioned it while I was watching. I was like, they are definitely really upside down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, their hair and everything, man. There's so much ceiling walking in this movie.
Dude, if you're a fan of Dancing on the Ceiling, you should watch this movie.
It's great. Well, it's not great. It's entertaining. Well, it's not even entertaining, really. It is. It's a thing.
It definitely certainly exists, and because it exists, we have suffered through it, so you don't have to, Elmers.
So you don't have to. You can listen to our hot takes.
Well, I mean, I feel like a lot of people have seen this. Like, I feel like when I saw it as a young man, it was like very popular. Like, I feel like I probably saw it in theaters. No, that's a lie. But like, I feel like I remember liking this movie as a child. And it was only because, it was violent, which it's not. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, it's like monster movie, action movie, Hugh Jackman,
scantily clad women and stuff.
Scantily plaid. They're wearing like buffalo, like ratty
plaid.
buffalo plaid.
There was some redneck.
Okay, so I actually, it's funny. I was talking to my coworkers about this film, and a lot of them remember watching it and remember it being a terrible movie. Unsurprisingly.
Yeah, well, that's like, I had known that it wasn't good, but that I had liked it. You know what I mean? Like, I knew in my mind that it wasn't a good movie.
So when this film came out, I was 14, which
Yeah.
is this is a PG-13 movie. That's exactly who this is marketed towards. It's teenage boys.
100%.
Kate Beckinsale's in it. She'd actually had just shot Underworld.
Super hot at the time. Like she was a
she's
big
wearing
deal.
that corset and everything.
Yeah.
And
Underworld, I just want to say, very similar movie, so much better.
So much better. And Stephen Sommer was actually worried about trying to cast her, so he didn't offer her a position or offer her a role until they almost started production, and then her agent was able to like get a copy of the script, and she signed on immediately.
She's like, yeah, I'm already in character.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I'm not a vampire. I'm killing vampires. Cool, I can do that.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, this was my first viewing of this movie, but I remember vividly wanting to see this film so badly when it was being promoted, when it was getting ready for a theatrical release. I remember just getting into Van Helsing. They made a video game. Obviously he has lore from different books and stuff. And I just thought that this movie was going to be so cool. And for whatever reason, I'll tell you the reason. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a job. I didn't have income of my own. And my mom certainly wasn't going to go watch this movie. But I didn't end up seeing it. And, I think it was even like 2 to 3 short years later when I had a job and a car and things like that, I was like, yeah, movie's probably garbage. And I've since never seen it until Rob suggested it for his episode. And I watched it. And I have to say my expectations were low and met.
So it's funny that you talked about a video game because this film is such a video game. Right? Like you get all this exposition you get a lot of exposition. You get all this exposition in the beginning with like, we're the secret order of blah-de-blah and we live under the Vatican.
I mean, even the opening scene feels like a video game cutscene.
Yeah, with the black and white. And Hugh Jackman's like worked for the Vatican for years. So like, why are they, I mean, they're doing it for the audience, but like, why are they telling him this right now? It doesn't make any sense. Then immediately they go from Vatican or they go from Paris to the Vatican, right? He kills Hyde, and then he's at Paris, and then he's at the Vatican the next day. That's like a 2-week horse ride. Like, there's no way. Yeah. They are not close, okay? And then they go to Romania, and they actually do show him, like, whatever, on a boat. So you assume it's months or what? I don't know. There's a year passes between Dr. Frankenstein being murdered by townspeople with 10,000 torches in the wind, and Van Helsing getting to Transylvania, which, small historical side note that is so unimportant, Romania didn't own Transylvania back then.
At this time, no, it was the
Austro-Hungarian,
yep.
the Habsburgs.
Well, I would like to recall to one of your most famous and strongest observations that we've had on the pod. There's actually some notes I'll get to later, but I was curious if you were going to suggest that this film exists outside of space and time.
In a Bermuda Triangle style?
Yes.
No, actually, surprisingly, no. The only real issue I had was with the time frame was the Paris to Vatican City, which is bullshit.
We'll get into it.
We'll get into it. I'm excited.
I have some observations.
I would love for your observations. But yeah, so the beginning, right? It's like black and white. It's clearly an homage to the old, Universal 1930s. And it's Dracula and Dr. Frankenstein are in Frankenstein's castle, and he's trying to bring the monster to life. And Vlad is like going on about how he's basically like a venture capitalist and like paid for all this and bought him a lab and moved him from London to Romania. And then all of a sudden the townspeople finally rise up, all 200 of them, and the monster is alive, and they do the whole "it's alive," and there's those big columns that have electricity through them and shit.
Yeah,
and
it's the best scene in the movie.
I don't know if it's the best.
In my
scene
opinion,
in the movie. It's all right. It's all right. And then they try to leave, and I love this bit. It is like something out of fucking Mel Brooks. They're trying to leave out like the backside, and the villagers are coming up the stairs, and Igor goes, "Dr. Frankenstein," and like points at them, and all the villagers like stop on the stairs, turn their heads 90 degrees, shout, and then descend the stairs to chase Frankenstein. It's so slapsticky. It's ridiculous. They go into the windmill, 10,000 torches in the wind, burned to death immediately. 1 year later, boom, Van Helsing's in Paris. And Andre the Giant, right?
No,
but
No.
didn't he look like Andre the Giant?
Yeah, I think
No.
it was.
He's based off Andre the Giant.
He is, yeah.
Sure. But
So
as
it
the
didn't-
resident, like, pro wrestling superfan, no.
But doesn't he kind of look like Andre the Giant?
Because he's big and white.
No, because he's just literally based off Andre the Giant, the wrestler.
He's huge and jacked and ugly.
And the
Whatever.
guy who played Frankenstein's monster, Schuler, actually did the mock-up for the CGI tracking for Mr. Hyde. And I don't know why they put him in Notre Dame, because at first I was like, wait, is this the Hunchback? Or is this Dr. Jekyll? What the fuck? And you finally get you first get glimpses of this super sweet steampunk tech that he's got. Which is like, let's make a movie that's set in the Middle Ages, but we'll just give them technology that's basically modern day. And they're like lightsaber buzzsaw, like handheld buzzsaws or something, because he cuts off Dr. Jekyll's arm, and the dude's like not bleeding or anything. He's just like walking around like one armed and shit. I did not understand that either, that there was no blood there. Also, the whole Notre Dame where they're like swinging around, so there's so much Spider-Manning in this movie.
Oh, yeah, it definitely felt like that scene where Spider-Man fights the guy that kills his uncle. Spoiler. When you're in that like abandoned building
The Green Goblin?
No, this is earlier when he lets the guy go that robbed the whatever, and then he realizes that if he didn't let him go, then his uncle will still be alive, so he suits up and goes to kill him.
Yeah.
That fight?
Yeah, that one.
All right, never mind.
But no, and there's more points. There's like the whole
I know
point
what
of
you're talking about.
There's the whole point of the party where he's swinging on the trapeze. There's so much Spider-Manning in this movie. I don't understand why.
Well, I mean, it's around that time.
It's around that. You're right. It was around that time. So yeah, all that shit happens. They destroy the Notre Dame, and then Dr. Jekyll like falls to his death, turns back into a human, And then all the French people like gather around and they see Van Helsing on the top of the Notre Dame at like midnight, backlit by a moon. They're like, Van Helsing, you murderer! But they say it in English, not French. And then he goes to the Vatican and goes and meets his like Q, who is Carl the friar.
Yes.
Who's allowed to fuck women because he's a friar. Apparently, you don't have to be celibate. Did you guys catch that? The whole
yeah.
recurring, like, oh no, I'm a friar.
He can curse.
And
fuck.
He can fuck. But then they like go to Romania, and he's like, I don't know how many sins we've crossed. It's like, dude, you fucking spreading seed all over Transylvania. I don't really know why you're worried about whatever swearing or blaspheming or whatever it is you're doing.
This is Faramir, by the way.
Oh,
which
yeah.
was one of the few things that I learned that I didn't know before that made it like not as awful. So Boromir's younger brother,
correct,
Faramir from Lord of the Rings, plays, what is his name? I have it written down.
Carl.
David
Carl
Wenham,
the
the actor.
Oh.
Yeah, plays the James Bond guy that they walk
Cute.
around in a room and he
Yeah.
shows them all the new gadgets.
I love that they're like a multi-faith, but they live in the Vatican.
Yeah, just
the
underneath.
Vatican. And also Christian God is totally real. It's like, we have to protect the family from staying in purgatory. It's like, why are the Buddhists here if purgatory is real? Like, that didn't matter.
Oh my god.
But all the contraptions, like the gas-powered, repeating Gatling gun style crossbow that he has, where he's firing off. This is why it's a video game. He's firing off like 40 rounds each. There's never a reload.
Are you talking about the crossbow thing, the first fight with the brides? This was such a boring opening like action sequence because, like you said, they just take turns swooping down, and he is just blindly firing arrows into the sky, and nothing happens for such
until
a
he
long
needs
time.
to. Until he needs to. Then he's like
then
just hits that wing.
Yeah.
It's with
He
the
misses
precision.
300 shots and then hits
He's
the
down to
fucking
6
one
and nails them all.
to save what's her face?
Anna.
Anna.
I assume that the carriage
Anna Valerius.
they brought from the Adriatic Sea, which they mention offhand for some reason in a later scene. Like, oh, we came by sea. Oh, the Adriatic? Yes, the Adriatic.
I was also wondering why they had to name drop that sea.
Because because Americans don't know geography, so they're kind of confused. Like, oh, isn't Transylvania like landlocked or something? But I'm assuming the carriage they took from the boat is just full of crossbow bolts, like stuffed to the gills with crossbow bolts, because he is going through them.
Where are they coming from? Because not a big weapon.
The crossbow? Yeah. No. I mean, a crossbow bolt's like what, 9.5, 10 inches? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like he shot 300 times from that thing.
That thing. Well, it does have like a kind
the
of
spinning cartridge thing.
hopper
but
sort of thing that's not really explained for good reason because it'd be too many holes. But there's that. There's the sunlight bomb that Carl's been working on for 12 years but doesn't know what it's for. And he's like, well, I guess we're going to kill vampires, so I'll bring it with me just in case. It's got volcanic soil from Pompeii and sand from the Gobi Desert, so it's pretty powerful. Nitroglycerin.
So
He invents
obnoxious.
nitroglycerin. And he like flings it there. And what else does he have? There's something. Oh, the silver stakes that are like spring loaded.
yeah,
Those
yeah,
are
it
pretty
looks like-
cool.
yeah.
Such just
So much good stuff.
infuriating to listen to you recount it.
Lots of good stuff.
Oh, okay. This too. So when this movie was being shot, Hugh Jackman was starting to do Wolverine and X-Men and all that, where he plays an immortal character who can't remember anything about his past.
Dude,
Logan.
Yes, it's the same.
Let's
yes,
do it
it's the
again.
same.
Character.
If it ain't broke.
Isn't he so like flippant the whole movie? Like anytime he has a line, he's just kind of like, well, they like try to kill Dracula, and they're like, no, we've tried to killing Dracula. We don't know how. He's like, well, that would have been good information to have. He's just kind of like ironic, like what?
This is definitely the worst performance I have seen from him.
It's
And I don't
it's
know.
pretty bad.
I don't know if it's the writing or if he wasn't in the right headspace.
Well, it's the most like obvious reason here is he's not a great actor. Full stop.
True. I never was
Period.
a big fan of Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, no, he's an action star.
Right.
That's
You
no
don't
one's
have
no
to
one's
be- you
saying
don't have to be
Then
good at
they
acting.
put him in a 2.5 hour fucking long
it's
movie.
2 hours 11 minutes. It's not 2.5 hours.
Felt longer.
It did feel very long. that last fight scene lasted 2 hours.
Yeah, well, if you were going by the striking of the clock, more space time. But that's at the end. We'll get to it. By the time the clock strikes 12, I'll be turned back. No, fuck you.
I like when they say it's by the stroke of midnight, but actually it's like midnight plus 14 seconds because the last stroke of midnight.
There was a grace period. There's a 30-minute grace period on werewolf vaccines.
Okay, did either of you guys watch that Showtime series Penny Dreadful with Ava Green?
I have not.
Okay, I'm a big fan. They had to rush it to finish it, so the last season sucks. But what I'm getting into is that there's a mythology that I'm wondering if was spun off of this, where the only thing that can kill Dracula is a werewolf. Like that's and the whole hand of God thing is like woven into that too. So this was very familiar to me. Also, a Frankenstein's monster that I absolutely hated and despised.
In Penny Dreadful?
In Penny Dreadful.
Wow.
It's a very love or hate kind of character. You either love him or hate him. You know, that's what love and hate relationship is.
Yeah.
Can you explain that again?
Yeah. My favorite bit about Frankenstein's monster, though, is when they crash through the floor into the whatever subterranean cavern. They're fighting with him, and he bumps his head against the wall, and it comes apart like a Rock'em Sock'em robot.
Oh,
and he's trying to like put his 4 pieces back together, and his like brain. It looks like one of those things you put your fingers on, makes your hair stand up. It's so corny.
It would have been better with Gilman.
Would it?
Yes.
I don't think it could have been worse.
It would have just been
right.
It would have just been the guy from Hellboy. It would have been that guy, that character.
I'll take it.
You take it.
I'll throw it in. If Guillermo del Toro, If Guillermo del Toro did have any influence on this movie, it would have been much better. But it was Stephen Sommers who
he wrote it.
I know. Let me tell you a little bit about Stephen Sommers real quick. Sorry.
Unload.
Let's jump in here.
All right.
Stephen Sommers went to school, he went to K through 12, and went through college in a town called St. Cloud, Minnesota, and then he went to college right there in St. Joseph, which is just outside of St. Cloud. And I've lived actually in St. Cloud, and believe it or not, that's where I met Andrew, our biggest Elmer. It was in St. Cloud. So shout out to Andrew.
Shout out.
Second shout out to Andrew here.
Yeah. So I've spent some time in St. Cloud. And what I can tell you about that town is it's a pile of shit. It's the worst place I've ever lived. It's got a crumbling infrastructure, and it's full of just the worst people. If there's anybody listening to our podcast, ironically, it's the one person who listens to this is someone who's owned a home in St. Cloud. But allow me to continue to shit on this city.
Right.
Because not only is it a horrible city, it's not even a city. It's just it's a spot on the map where occasionally drunk kids play hockey and over advance. But they gave us Stephen Sommers. And if I needed another reason to loathe St. Cloud, Minnesota, it was Van Helsing.
How are the bodegas in Little Transylvania in that town?
There are no bodegas, but there are Mogadishus.
Oh, there's Mogadishus?
Yes, because it's too cold for my people, and but for whatever reason, there are a lot of Somalians. Actually, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of Somalians in Minnesota. Period, just because it was one of the big refugee states. But there are multiple Mogadishus, and that honestly was a highlight of my time there. You can get some really great food.
Yeah, when I think of a fun time, I think Mogadishu. Just a family-friendly, good food, good atmosphere, laid back. Yep.
Another real quick shout-out, St. Cloud Family Restaurant. I hope you guys are doing okay. I'll see you soon.
Enough about the town you hate.
Oh, it's horrible. But it does make sense to me that Stephen Sommers grew up with so much just nothing. He grew up with nothing, and that's what he's given us through his art.
You know what? The Mummy's a good movie. It's a fun movie. I don't think you're totally right. I think I actually really like that film.
I was pretty surprised to see that it was the same guy, because I read through a lot of comments, reviews on Van Helsing, and I was curious, people that liked it, what were they saying about it? And they're like, it was mostly oh, it's it's a lot of CGI. Like, it's not supposed to be taken seriously. It's fun. And I was like, no, like, none of that is true. But it is true about the Mummy. So I don't know if there's, like, people that hate the Mummy and like Van Helsing. 'Cause that doesn't make fucking sense to me. But you know what I mean? They're like, oh, like the Mummy's like that too.
I think what it is, man, is it's like this is a bad movie.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can't articulate what you don't like about the movie, so you pick things that you think are the problem. And the CGI is not great. Like, it's not like to say that the CGI is amazing for the film, but
I think it was probably pretty strong circa 2004, though.
yeah, not bad. Actually, this is also the first feature film, whatever that means, to use a like a camera rig setup where all the flying and stuff was happening, which is kind of interesting.
Well, the XFL came up with a lot of good technologies, and it
Did
was
they?
a horrible. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the NFL has bought and stole all of these things.
I forget that you're into really weird hobby sports like wrestling and curling and XFL.
I
and
don't care
curling?
about those last two at
cup
all.
stacking.
No.
Competitive eating.
If you guys want to make fun of me, there's way easier ways to do it. You don't have to make things up.
mean,
Big
look at
Formula One guy, big pro wrestling guy. Like you could
I
just.
think Formula One is actually pretty respectable, even though it's dumb. It's like not NASCAR. If you said NASCAR, then I'd be like, oh.
I'm not from. Whatever.
You watch WWE or whatever it is.
I don't actually watch WWE. I watch professional wrestling. Anyway, we're getting off topic.
We're getting off topic. Okay, the Undertaker in the Transylvania town. Does he not look like Noel Fielding in Mighty Boosh? Like he's wearing a top hat.
my
He's all
gosh.
white and got
Wait, the
stringy
Undertaker.
hair.
Wait, who the fuck is the Undertaker?
The Undertaker's the guy who is like
He's Kane's brother. He controls lightning. He uses Tombstone
he
Pile
threw
Driver for his finisher.
Hell in a Cell off.
Mankind, yeah.
Yeah.
Hell in a Cell. He's undefeated at WrestleMania for
undefeated.
like 22
No.
years.
He's the guy who's kind of like leading the townspeople when Anna's not around. He's wearing the top hat.
With the
He's
like
like
white.
pasty
Did he have like
and white
white
hair.
hair? Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
he had like
yeah,
white
yeah,
long
yeah.
hair, but he looks like a Mighty Boosh character. He looks like he's about to jam me in the grums with my screwdriver, Howard Moon, and all that shit.
Yeah.
Also, Igor. I almost said Igor. Igor is Benny from The Mummy.
Yeah, there's a few
Yeah.
people from The Mummy in this.
Yeah, he's apparently a personal friend of Sommer's, and they've collaborated with a couple things. But like his voice sounded familiar, but that role was written specifically for him.
Yeah, that's what I always say about great filmmaking is you write specific parts for your friends and fucking ham on them and write
I
into.
mean, he was an actual actor. He's not just some dude.
Oh, was he? What does he do in this movie? Because you just summarized his role by like, oh yeah, he's been in some other things because this director shoehorned him into that
No,
too,
I mean,
and now he's got that voice, and like
he
this was
was-
written for him.
He was in The Mummy.
He was in There Will Be Blood,
Oh.
which is I have actually never seen.
Oh, it's a good flick.
but I know
Very good
it's
film.
supposed
It's
to be very good.
way too good for this podcast.
Fair.
Kevin J. O'Connor is his name.
Yes, Kevin J. O'Connor.
Not.
Yay. Tell me more about what did he do in There Will Be Blood?
I don't fucking know. I haven't
Yeah,
seen
nobody
it.
does because he wasn't important.
It's all about
That's
Paul
probably fair.
Dano and who's the lead?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis, yeah. Man, no, this film, the Frankenstein tech, it makes no sense. It's Dracula wants to bring his kids back to life because they're born dead, and he needs Frankenstein's machine, and also needs the Frankenstein monster as like a light bulb filament, essentially, to channel. Like,
Yeah, they didn't.
What?
They didn't really. Yeah, that was.
This
I didn't
movie
like
was
that,
just
the
all
pods.
plain. They were just building a world
yeah.
for sequels that never happened, and they gave us exposition dumps that didn't amount to anything. The only thing that kept this movie afloat, and it didn't age well, and it's not for me, was just all of the like craning and rubbernecked inducing action sequences that weren't great. But I mean, they're like, oh, let's just have like a carriage fire and some Dracula. Like it was
Yes.
just, man,
Why
this thing
was
was
the
a
carriage
mess.
on fire?
This
I
was a
don't
mess.
understand why the carriage was on fire.
All right, so to me, this movie had a great soundtrack. Actually, I don't know
You
if
you liked it?
it had a good soundtrack.
You like the weird, like, kind of flamenco but not flamenco, like, action music?
I mean, it I wouldn't go see it in concert, but like for what it was, It was good. I was okay. So what I didn't want to do was come in and just drizzling shit all over this movie, which I'm going to do as soon as I'm done with this sentence. It had a good soundtrack. The weapons were pretty cool, kinda. Like, I mean,
for steampunk,
I would have liked to have seen more of them. Really, I guess.
you wanted more.
Well, man, if you
What would have made the movie better?
Oh, it's just no. There's just too. I don't have time for that, and this is why I'm not making films. I will crap all over Stephen Sommers, but I will admit right now I couldn't do a better job. But like the movie had like some cool gadgetry that never really got utilized or had much screen time. The costumes were like reasonable enough, I guess.
They looked like Ren Fair costumes.
They were completely unbelievable in a way, but like we're also talking about a film that features Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein's monster,
poorly
and so forth, you know. But I'm taking umbrage with Anna's pants.
Okay.
You know why she's wearing pants? But okay, and so
because she's a fighter.
I did research into this, and you know, it's not that pants were completely uncommon in this era in Europe. In fact, a lot of times in the battlefield, women did wear pants. But I highly doubt that they were these hip-hugging, Jordache-esque cheek chokers that we got to see Anna in for 2+ hours.
They're tighter than the corset she's wearing.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean...
Which was tight.
It was. Only that, man, like, if you can think of one place that is not a matriarchy, it's definitely Romania. Like, there's no way that she's in charge of that town.
Well,
like, at all.
I mean, you could tell by looking at her and everybody else, she is the only person living there that has access to
She's a noble.
shower,
Yeah.
a hairbrush. She always looks good, and everyone else, so she probably has some personal tailors making her fucking pants.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. And
Well-
like, we're painting in broad strokes, but like Rob said, like, women have been enslaved and over-policed to such a nauseating degree of the patriarchy, specifically in this time and era, that like I didn't believe it, which is fine, but also, you know, good for them for writing a part that has a strong female in that time. You know, it doesn't have to be overly accurate, and it's good to like lay some levity into the circumstance. But I felt like it was just, we're going to take Kate Beckinsale because she was in Underworld, and we're going to take Hugh Jackman because he's this hot hunk in X-Men, and we're going to build a movie around them because they were going to carry this franchise that never, you know what I mean?
Completely.
And because of that, they looked good. They were center stage, but
the chemistry is boring.
There's no chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
are you
boring.
talking about? There is just nothing.
Also, Anna has a sword on her hip. Never uses it the whole movie.
Oh my gosh!
I think she pulls it out and brandishes it at one point, but she never uses it. And oh man!
Also,
they
like,
live in
she had these,
Dracula. They live in Dracula's house. How does that make any sense?
None of this movie made sense. It was horrible. But the whole time she's not utilizing her sword, it's probably because she couldn't muster it out of her thigh-high, high-heeled shit kickers that she chooses to engage in combat
her,
in.
Pirate boots that she's
this
wearing.
is ridiculous. Like, I don't even want to get into it.
So get this: they show up in Transylvania. No one has sent a letter to the Valorius family that Van Helsing is coming from the Vatican to save them. So they all like get in a shit fight about like disarming and about to kill each other when the vampires show up in broad daylight. Like, what the fuck are these rules? Like,
they were clouds, bro.
That's what I'm saying. Like, fuck that noise.
You're gonna talk about that when
Yes.
every other
What?
rule
Whoa,
was destroyed.
whoa.
There was no. Okay,
That's
no,
what I'm saying.
I have
No,
so
listen.
much umbrage with the lore of
It's
both
terrible.
Stoker and Shelley in this film, just being completely pissed on.
Okay.
No, yeah. So Silver doesn't kill him, and Stakes Through the Heart don't kill him.
Dracula special.
Yeah,
But
sure.
okay.
But
Be
okay, so
consistent.
conveniently,
Be
after
consistent.
the only Lycan in the movie is killed.
Well, that's Underworld. They're not.
No, sure. The only werewolf in this movie is killed. Van Helsing happens to get a bit, and he turns because we have to.
Because you need it.
Yeah, because
The story requires it.
God.
Also, just like Underworld, the werewolves are like subservient to vampires for some reason because Dracula invented Lanthropy or something. And then you find out through a moving mural that Carl finds after he fucking impregnates some peasant girl is that apparently
What an homage to the original CEO of Universal.
Yeah, I
that they
know,
put in there.
right?
Yeah.
he's a friar.
Yeah.
He's allowed to do that. You find out that like that you need a werewolf to kill Dracula, but werewolves are controlled by Dracula after the first full moon. So there's like a 12-second window in which you're powerful enough to kill him, but not under his control, which is total fucking batshit nonsense.
Well, they need because every other thing like holy water, no. Garlic, no. Crucifix, no. Stake to the heart, no. So you got to have the Hugh Jackman 12 seconds of doom, which
you do for yeah. But not only that, not only the vampires in broad daylight, which happens a couple of times and bugs the fucking shit out of me, is the werewolves too. There's scenes where the moon goes behind clouds and then they turn back into humans. But there's a whole scene
Like
where they're fighting. They're hunting a werewolf when you meet Anna and Velkin, and it's like at 2 p.m. Fuck you guys. Like, just be consistent. Like, that's all I'm asking. Like, okay, Dracula's got special powers. He's king vampire. Cool.
What about the brides, though? You know what I mean?
What about him?
Because they just shapeshift.
The belly dancer bride and the Barbie bride and the like strangely Mediterranean Middle Eastern bride. And yeah, I love it. Love it.
At least their transformations were better than the werewolves, who just
Their transformation. There was
their
actually some decent.
skin just kind of.
They're ripping it off. So this was a specific choice. I mean, Summers.
I read that
wrote
too.
it.
He was like, "Oh, I don't want the normal as
Growing
transformation.
werewolf.
That's actually decent. I want to try something new."
It comes from within.
And it's just like, whatever. But it was like really quick. And I remember seeing the first one, and I was like, really, the skin just kind of falls away, and then boom, you're done.
There's a couple scenes where Velkin, Anna's brother, is like in the Castle Frankenstein, and they're showing it like happening over and over again in like a 5-second frame, which was kind of cool and it was unique. But for werewolf transformations, man, there are like a dozen that are better than that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. With a much less budget and decades prior.
Okay, one of my
like Fright Night.
Yeah,
Like Friday Night.
yeah,
Way better.
or American Wolf in London,
Howling.
The best.
Howling.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite things I hate about this movie is that Dracula is constantly talking about how he has no heart and no emotion. And he is screaming this and crying about it. Ah, Marischka! And I have no heart. I feel nothing. It's like, dude, you are emoting like crazy. How do you feel nothing?
He was very annoying to me too. I feel like as a Dracula, you gotta either be like super sexy or super creepy.
Oh, you didn't like his black Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band jacket he's wearing?
Dude, the
He looked
costumes were
dumb
some
as
of the
fuck.
best parts of this movie, and I hated all of them.
He looked like he was from the Black Parade.
Exactly. Oh man! Not only that, like, you don't see his bat form until like the last 30 minutes of the movie. You see him transform like a shadow and stuff, but
Which was better based on the other transformation we've seen. His bat form thing was, I don't want to say creepy, but creepier than everything else.
He looked more like bestial.
He kind of looked like a
monstrous.
bat. He looked like a bat from Bats.
He looked like Man Bat
That
from
big
Batman.
fucking face.
I know that doesn't make any sense.
He
Okay,
looked like Man Bat from Batman.
okay, Man Bat is
Right.
You know, are you guys familiar with Batman?
Yeah, it's,
Yes.
yeah,
okay.
it's a stepbrother.
No, it's not his stepbrother.
Stepbrother.
There's like a whole undercurrent where people are injecting themselves with animal DNA to like splice themselves, and Man Bat is literally looks like Dracula's transformation. Who gets his shit rocked once Van Helsing turns into a werewolf. He's like pulling him down, like slamming him around all over that Frankenstein castle.
Yeah.
There's not even a
That you have
contest.
to walk through the fucking cupboard. No,
The giant mirrored doorway, which
that is very Narnia.
is clearly a doorway. It's also got the same writing as the scrap of manuscript. Oh my god. Okay. So I get that this was the beginning, and so that the sequels that never happened might have illuminated all of this shit, right? But Dracula knows that Van Helsing is Gabriel, who's whatever, some immortal being.
Oh, yeah.
Who I'm assuming is the Archangel Gabriel, left hand of God, all that kind of shit, right?
God, it's so bad.
And the
They
Vatican.
did not need to do that. It
No.
added nothing. It took no time to add. Like, for real, there was no fucking
When you
reason
say
to
they
have
don't need
that.
to do that, are you referring to the film in its entirety?
all of
Okay,
it.
all
All
right.
of it. It was a
I'm just
waste.
now getting to it. No, but I actually even, because that's what I thought. I was like, oh, Gabriel found it. But then I read a bit of trivia, and it was like a last second change.
Yeah.
I didn't write it down, but
So-
he had a different name.
He was initially called Abraham because the author of Dracula, Bram Stoker, Bram is short for Abraham, and
That's
they
what it
were
was.
originally going to do that. And I don't know if it was a stylistic change or it was like an IP, like they weren't allowed to use that.
This whole movie was style over substance. I hate Stephen Sommers.
But the idea that like Van Helsing's like there's a point where they're like getting off the boat, and he's talking to Carl, and Carl's like, "You don't remember anything?" And he's like, "Well, I remember fighting the Romans at Masada," and they're like, "That was at 73 AD." He's like, "Well, you asked, so you know." It's like, what is this stupid bullshit? Like, he's picked by God. And also, before they show up, the Vatican, who's the Holy Order of who gives a fuck, that lives under the Vatican, knows nothing about Dracula. Dracula's been around for 400 years. They hunt monsters for a living. Don't know anything about
Not
Dracula.
on the radar.
No one tells Van Helsing that Dracula can't be killed. Van Helsing doesn't know anything about vampires. Him and Carl are talking about it. It's like, oh, they're like warlocks, right? He's like, no, my grandmother could kill a warlock. You can't kill a vampire like that. You need garlic. You need silver. You need holy water.
Yeah, man. I don't even know why they bothered giving us that whole exposition, that like Saltzman, broccoli, James Bond
great.
introduction where they just bastardize Q and James.
Because you know, every movie they're going to put out, they'd have to have the scene where Van Helsing gets his gear to fight the monster for that movie.
I mean, that honestly would have been more fun had I seen it over 3 films. But here's the biggest problem with that. Even
Yeah.
if it did get
Is that you
made,
don't wanna watch
I
two
wouldn't
more
have
of these
watched
films.
it. Exactly. There's nothing about this film that made me want to fucking watch it. Aside from Hugh Jackman's costume, though, I do have to talk about this. Everything about it, from the hair extensions
The
to
leather
his
duster.
Bergdorf Goodman
I'm not throwing
turtleneck.
the duster out.
Oh, but yeah, exactly. They had those David Byrne talking head size shoulder pads, and he had that like Viva Ondier fucking hat from Final Fantasy IX.
It's like
so good.
It's like a leather cowboy hat.
Oh, but it's got so much more to offer.
It's like a cowboy fedora crossover because the
but with,
brim
like,
is too
elements.
big.
Yeah, but it's got like elements of this is the selecting hat. What is it?
The sorting
The
hat?
sorting hat. The sorting hat.
How is it like the sorting hat?
It's not at all.
It doesn't talk. It's not pointy.
No, but it's like elongated on its tip. Like it's not it's not like a cowboy hat. It's not like a Stetson. You know what I mean?
I thought it was.
I feel like it's not.
I'm
Pull up a
definitely gonna
picture.
pull
You
up
definitely
picture
look it
right
up.
now.
But no, they're trying to make it like Indiana Jones, where he's always like losing the hat and then gets it back at the end of the battle.
Selecting hat. What the fuck is wrong?
I
with
don't
me?
know, man.
I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
look at that. That shit ain't-
embarrassing.
Dude, look how tall that is.
have you seen the sorting hat?
I said it was a hybrid
Between what?
between the cowboy hat, like the Stetson, and the sorting hat. It's way too
I don't
tall
know,
to
man.
look at how tall this thing is. That is like taller than a fedora. There is an extra 3 inches.
Okay,
And the wave, like
I-
this is a floppy hat.
it's a leather hat,
God, she
so of course
looks-
it's floppy.
So uncomfortable.
I will give you that is way taller than I remember it being, but it does not look anything like a sorting hat at all, like or a selecting hat for that matter.
Sure. Well, all I have to say is Hugh Jackman did look good, even if you guys are hating on his hair extensions.
I didn't think he looked that good.
I think that the reason why you think that is because he only spent the last few minutes without his shirt on. Because if he would have just been shirtless the whole time,
That
I think
might have been better.
I would have been redlined the whole fucking movie, and it would have been more
Six to
enjoyable
midnight.
for me.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean the CGI. You guys kind of shit on the CGI. Okay, so I'm in a weird turn of events. I'm gonna kind of hype this movie up a little bit. So I mean, I
coming
absolutely
around?
hated it. No, I'm not. I hated it. But like the CGI wasn't horrible for 2004. And honestly, I thought like Jekyll Hyde looked like kind of cool. Frankenstein looked awful, but that's just because they went with a bad stylistic choice on that.
Yeah, it wasn't
but I
the
thought the
effects, though.
brides looked pretty cool. And like honestly, if you guys want to remind yourself like how god awful was like that shit they subjected us in The Mummy Returns with the fucking rock at the end. It's like some of the worst CGI of all time. It looks faker than anything that has ever happened in WWE.
The pyramid that gets
Absolutely.
like swirled up in a whirlpool.
You know, and granted that was 2001 and this is 2004, but like I mean, we're leaps and bounds better than it could have been. And I have to imagine most of that big budget did go into the CGI because they certainly didn't employ much talent.
No, they did. They actually, I mean, Kate Beckinsale and coming off Underworld and Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman was not that guy yet, though.
No, but he was becoming that guy. He wasn't it wasn't even that he was a nobody or some B-lister. Like, he was an up-and-coming star.
So you got two guys, and then who else? The guy, Alan Silverstreet, did the score. And he's kind of a big name. They brought him in. He's actually the guy who does like the Avengers and stuff now. Like he's done.
That tracks.
Well, I'm just saying, like yeah, totally. But like he did Predator, Forrest Gump, Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Those are all like good films.
Yeah, and well, he also Back to the Future.
Oh yeah.
Like,
not a good film, but fun.
Sure, but I mean, this guy. I mean. Outside of that, who'd they bring in? Fucking Stephen Sommer's best friend?
They're not friends. He's just a personal friend he's worked on.
They're not friends. He's just a personal friend. Okay.
Can we talk about two things? Can we talk about the egg sacs that are getting shat out like 500 at a time? And
right
also
now.
the weird vampire Jawas that work in the laboratory.
Oh, the Dwargar or whatever. Yeah,
no, they're not Dwargar, but those are from Skyrim. But
they're little fucking
Dwergy.
Willy Wonka's got the same thing.
No, they're Jawas. They have like glasses and they're covered in rags and they work on electronics.
I'm selecting hats. Like, what Jawas wear glasses? Like
they do. Have you not seen Star Wars?
They don't wear glasses.
Okay, they don't actually. The Sand People wear glasses, but.
Yeah, Tusken Raiders and their
Tusken
goggles,
Raiders.
asshole.
Well, the Dwergy also wear goggles, not glasses. Doesn't matter.
They were the Star Wars little dudes and the Willy Wonka little dudes fucked, and they made these little dudes.
They would run Gringotts.
Apparently, Dracula owns them or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like Igor's like, oh yes, the Dwergy. They're quite useful.
Yeah, is that like a different race?
Yeah, I think they're like this again. They're Jawas, dude. They're not humans.
Yeah.
They're like 5'2", and they have like nasty
explained.
fang mouths and stuff.
You know I'm a fan of a good horrifying mouth.
A good wet
sewer mouth.
Who had the wettest mouth in this movie?
Me, because I was fucking falling asleep and wiping the drool off of my chin. This thing was best suited for a 10-year-old with the intellect of a 5-year-old. I hated this movie. And I'm not even trying to make fun of 5-year-olds because I think most of them would lose interest and walk out because it was 2+ hours long.
Yeah, I was saying, and the attention span of a 40-year-old.
God, I don't understand. Like, okay, and to be fair, you told us we were going to hate watch a film to create banter for the podcast.
Hate watch.
Well, I hope that you can sit high in your Tower of Transylvanian triumph because you got your fucking way.
I gave you guys two other options that are good films.
You did, actually.
But it didn't matter because I
voted for the bad one.
I had one vote and I had a multiple choice ranked voting, and I made this.
What were going to be? Did you say what the other ones were going to be?
Yeah. Okay, so the other two were Company of Wolves, which was the '85 werewolf movie.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that actually the name of it escapes me right now, but it's like 78 minutes. It came out in 2019, and it follows a Viking who's trying to basically make good on his dead wife by going on a grand quest. But it's supposed to be pretty good. It's like a low budget indie film.
Man,
yeah, I don't know.
I'm trying to remember. I didn't have it written down because I didn't think we'd be talking about it.
Well,
so much exposition though. There are 3. I wrote exposition number 1, exposition number 2, exposition number 3. So you got Vatican underneath the Vatican, right? You've got the first time that Van Helsing and Dracula meet up, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Gabriel." And he's like, "What?" And then they're like,
"Me?
Well, you've been around forever, but we'll talk about it next time." And then whatever flies off. And then the final one is when they're in Dracula's house and they're trying to find the way into the castle, which they find immediately. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, my father stared at this map for years. It's like, oh, maybe it's the portal to Dracula's castle. Oh, look, that missing piece fits. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll
walk through it.
Make it to an ice mirror, and then we'll walk through it.
I don't recommend anybody watch this movie.
I recommend
unless
that you watch it with friends. If you watch it at all,
you're obsessed with Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah.
Or the redheaded
Yeah.
bride was hot.
Oh, Mariska.
All of them were.
They were all hot.
Not unattractive. And I'll say again, like, you know, Hugh Jackman was pretty hot in this movie. I don't care what you say.
I mean, have you seen Chris Sarandon?
Oh man,
you?
nobody can compare to Chris
Oh,
Sarandon.
when he's like chomping on those apples.
Oh my god, he's got that wet apple mouth.
Crunch.
Yeah.
Hot.
Mm.
Hot.
I did read that Michael Bay
Yep.
almost directed it.
I saw that as well.
You think that would have helped? I think that at the
Um,
very least, the effects would have been.
Who wrote
least
it
a
in that?
little
In
better.
this other alternative universe, is it still a Stephen Sommer script?
I assume because he came
Yeah,
up with
probably.
the idea personally. Like,
Well, then no, it wouldn't have helped.
no, I think
No,
it
I
could have.
bite my thumb at Stephen Sommers. I
Bite
bite my thumb at
the-
Shit Cloud, Minnesota for cultivating in his mind that he was special enough to even take on such endeavors such as Hollywood filmmaking. No, I hated it.
Okay, what did you guys think about the Halloween parade or ball? That like all of a sudden they're like, oh, by the way, tomorrow's All Hallows
Man,
Eve,
there's-
and we have a ball at Budapest every year.
I mean, the whole idea of it is dumb, but also like I do like the costumes and the music of it, and like the trapeze artist that Van Helsing could, of course, do
That and
when
like
he needed to.
Ceiling walking.
the guy like bouncing on the ball playing a violin, like the weird like Cirque du Soleil dancers in the center of the
Yeah,
ballroom.
and I mean it's hard to ignore that that they were all actually doing that, and I actually did read that KB and a lot of the others, they had to take days and days and hours of actual dancing classes to do that.
to be able to do that.
But I mean, it didn't.
Okay. The scene where he's in front of the mirror.
Yeah, when he throws her down and says, "Aren't we beautiful together?" or something stupid.
If you actually look, none of the other guests are reflected in the mirror
Yeah.
either because they're vampires, right?
Yeah.
Which is such an anticlimactic, like, oh, it's full of vampires. It's like 1,000 vampires. Oh, sunlight bomb. Boop. I know what it's for now. Boop. They're all
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
The end.
You're just waiting
That-
for him to use
that-
that little fucking.
From when you're revealed until they're all dead is about 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, there's hundreds,
Hundreds.
and I guess he kills them all.
He does, except for Dracula. 'cause-
Except for the three that
Because
have
you can't-
names.
No, because they get all the brides get killed over the course.
Over the
right?
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. I didn't like this film. I was honestly though at the very beginning with I did like Mr. Hyde, and then we met.
Really?
And then we met the brides, and I was like, I'm gonna be so upset if I end up liking this movie because I got my hopes up on like that Q British Secret Service type of James Bond introduction, and I was like, is this movie gonna be kind of cooler than I want it to be? And it wasn't.
And it wasn't.
Because, like I said, none of the gadgets got used, and I don't know, the brides were like honestly one of the best parts for me. They had cool makeup, they had cool transformation scenes, they were all attractive, and
You get like, I don't know about character development, but they get a lot of screen time.
yeah, and they have
There's
like
no character development.
well, they do have their roots in the classical like tale of Bram
Yeah.
Stoker as well. Like I mean,
Yeah, the
they're not
brides.
called. Yeah, they don't have names, but
No.
they're referred to as the three witches or three brides.
They float. You know?
Yeah. So I thought that was cool. And I did like at some point when we were like introducing Frankenstein, I was like, you know, it is kind of cool that they put this little hodgepodge of all these characters in here. But then like I was disappointed by literally every single one of those introductions.
It was like watching one of the worst seasons of American Horror Story.
Ugh.
We'll just throw everything in there, mix it up, put it on blend.
It was horrible. And like I said, if you guys know me, then you know that I'm a huge fan of like Universal Classic Monsters. I'm a huge fan of like Lon Chaney Jr. and Sr.,
Big, like,
Boris Karloff,
MCU,
Bela Lugosi.
DC Universe kind of guy.
Not at all. Definitely not. But you know, I did get what I did get from this movie, and I didn't expect this was I did get hyped up on the potentially like the fourth swing and miss to redo this again. And I did get down to my notes earlier. I had misspoke. James Wan not doing a Frankenstein reboot. He's actually set to to produce a yet to be named reboot of this movie of Van Helsing.
Are you
Oh no.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. It's going to be part of the crossover universe, and they're going to try to unveil all of these Universal monsters in their own feature-length films. And right now, we're in
Please,
the
let's
beginning.
Go see that
Midnight
in
premiere.
theaters.
Absolutely.
Midnight premiere.
And right now, we talked about this privately, I don't know, a month or two ago when it was announced, but Universal the classic monsters are actually set to all be remastered and released soon on 4K DVD. The first round's coming out October 5th. It's featuring Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein, and the Invisible Man, with the next round set to include Creature of the Black Lagoon and Bride of Frankenstein, and I can't remember. There's another one that they're going to do in round 2, and I think it's set to be released over the course of 3, all said and done. So they're already pumping up these. Oh, the Mummy. The Mummy is going to be the third one.
A fourth reboot of the Mummy movie.
Yes, they're going to do another reboot of the Mummy. No. Sorry,
No,
I'm
but
talking about the
4K.
releasing of the 4K.
But
yeah, they are going to do.
Okay,
They are going to do.
I thought you
a
meant
new,
like another reboot.
They
of the
are
Mummy.
going to do another reboot of the Mummy, but I'm saying like of the 4K releases. You don't be surprised if you start seeing these on your like Bloody Disgustings and all of your other like horror news outlets. I wouldn't be shocked if some of these rights get either. Probably, I would view these titles being more readily available on an AMC Plus, but potentially even Shudder, because Universal is coming with the big guns. They got James Wan on, and they're going to try to make this. This is going to be their Marvel universe, and I think it's going to be a horrible failure again.
It's been in the making for 30 years.
Oh well, almost 100.
Well, they
really.
were thinking about it 50
Right.
years ago. Also, how like. Never mind. I lost it.
Well, you just grunt into the mic some more until you get it. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know. I did do some research on this film, which quickly gave way to me doing research on the films from the 30s and 40s that inspired these. And I just have to say I am optimistic but not holding my breath for the 4th attempt at creating this crossover universe. But, you know, if nothing else, at least the CGI will be better. Right?
I mean,
If nothing else, the CGI will be better.
And if he can't do it, if Juan can't do it, then just drop it.
I mean, I'm interested to watch
Probably.
it with you guys because we watched this terrible movie, and I want to see this and see how he does it. But realistically, all of those Universal monster movies, the original 4K, reboots, Dark Universe, whatever, if it was just me personally trying to find something to do and like enjoy, I would rather pick a Marvel movie out of a hat than watch any of this fucking
You're
garbage.
crazy.
Oh, yeah.
A Marvel movie out of a hat? You
I'd
could
rather
end up
watch...
with like,
yeah.
Oh
I'm,
my
I'm
God.
aware there's like 40 of them and some were really bad.
and none of
I'd rather
like,
just not watch anything.
seriously, you guys have zero interest in Wolfman
Negative interest.
with
I would like to
Lon
avoid
Chaney
it.
Tatum? You would not get anything out
If
of
you
viewing.
pick it for a movie, I'll watch it and I will critique it.
Oh, don't you worry,
I'm not worried. Well, I am worried, actually.
because you made me
I'm
watch
worried.
Van Helsing, and like
I didn't
I'll-
make you watch anything.
I'll be goddamned if we're gonna get through an entire season of 13th Elm without you just feasting your eyes upon the masterful performance that is Phantom of the Opera.
I'm just waiting for you to pull out the 20-second video of a train going past in black and white.
Oh, I could hit you with
I will run out of here. That shit is too realistic.
the round hay horse scene.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
No.
1888's the first recorded moving picture. I'll pull it up when we're off air. I'll show you guys.
All right, yeah, we'll definitely do that.
Hey, I mean, you got 4 seconds.
It's pretty great. Not just... Okay.
I think I would rather watch that on loop for 2 hours and 11 minutes than rewatch fucking Van Helsing.
Yeah? I think you should, because you've watched Van Helsing already, so you already can compare it. You should watch that for 2 hours and 11 minutes on a loop. And you have to actually watch it. You can't just walk up and do laundry or clean or anything. You have to, like, sit down.
Oh, but I did all of those things while watching Van Helsing, so
I
it's only
figured.
fair.
No, it's not fair.
I was watching Twitch.
I actually watched this movie, and I think that you sincerely were watching Twitch.
Oh,
No,
I had it
so-
on before you guys came over, just as like a refresher.
A little crash course.
Yeah.
So I watched this with my partner, and she was not about to sit through the ads on Tubi, and I actually spent $5 to watch this on
Why?
4K.
Wait, this
Because she
was
really
on
wanted to
Peacock.
watch it.
whatever. Then Peacock. It was Peacock because I downloaded Peacock to watch it.
Okay.
And she's like, it keeps stalling. And I was like, yeah, it does. This sucks. So I actually spent money to watch this, and I'm sad because I only had access to it for 24 hours, and I wish I would have watched it again before doing the podcast because there was a lot I didn't talk about.
I didn't watch it. I had it on with the volume turned all the way up so I could hear the dialogue while I was cooking and stuff. But it did remind me of a bunch of stuff that I'd forgotten about, like the insane bridge chase scene on the carriage where the Transylvanian horses jump like a gap that's 50 feet across. And then the brides go to try and save the monster because they need him to bring his babies to life. And they open it up and it's a claymore full of steaks.
Full of steaks.
Oh, steaks!
Yeah, one
God,
of them
this
goes
movie
right
was
through her.
so bad.
I want to say I was going through the cast and I saw that Robbie Coltrane, who plays Hagrid in all the Harry Potter movies,
Who does he play?
was credited as Mr. Hyde.
Oh, so he did the voice.
Okay, so I am not familiar with Jekyll and Hyde, but that's like the same dude, right?
Yeah. So
It's
so,
like a fucking
so Dr.
Jekyll.
Jekyll invents a serum that suppresses his good side, and so only his bad side's available, or only his bad side is out, which
So he's
becomes Mr. Hyde.
So he just did the voice?
Yeah, because the Frankenstein's monster actor Schuler did all the CGI like mock-up with, and apparently he just wore a cutout cardboard face of Mr. Hyde so that Hugh Jackman had something to like reference while they were doing the scenes.
Yeah, it's like Darth Vader and James Earl Jones.
That's what I figured, and that's why I was like, there's no way that just the 10 seconds that you see like the dead body falling off, that was Hagrid.
No.
That's how I was like, what the fuck? But still, that's kind of weird to me that he only had, 5 lines of dialogue?
Well, how many Harry Potter movies were out in circa 2004? One?
That's
None.
true, I guess.
Maybe
One?
one? Because
And-
the
I feel like
books
one-
came out in like 99 or
I
something.
feel like
One.
No, like it's like 96, 98, 99 or the first 3 because my mom, bless her, she was like, "Oh, these books are really popular. I got you the 3rd one for Christmas." And I was like, "Cool. Can we go to like Barnes and Nobles and get the first 2?" And she didn't. So I rented them I loaned them out from the library at school, and then I got so hooked to that 20 years later I referred to the Sorting Hat as the Selecting Hat.
the selecting hat. Big fan.
Right.
Big fan.
Big fan. Alan Rickman, if you're listening, how?
He's dead.
How?
Well, yeah.
That's how.
Yeah, you love J.K. Rowling and her anti-trans agenda, and
Whoa.
Whoa.
Nope.
and how the wizards just shat their pants and magicked it away. And
Nope.
That should have been in the movies.
It should have been in the movies.
There was not enough poop pants.
I think that it's in the past in the books. It's like in the medieval ages they just
Give me a flashback.
shit while
I thought that
walking
was going to
around.
be. I thought they were going to put that in Legendary Beast 2. It was
Yeah.
just all poops.
No, they spent too much money on Johnny Depp's contacts.
I should start wearing contacts.
You should just colored ones.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
be cool and not weird.
You should get the like blue white ones, like beautiful people. Beautiful people.
Oh yeah, this is compelling audio.
Oh,
for
it's
all
so
of our
good. This is
listeners.
probably our best ever.
Yeah.
Andrew, if you're listening, thanks.
If you made it this far,
made it this
thank you.
What?
Any Notting
Thank
Hill
you.
fans in the house?
Actually, kind of. Like I don't.
How well do you know the movie?
Not very well.
Okay. Do you remember when he shows up to the day of shooting and they mic her up and he's listening and Julia Roberts is talking to her co-star? So that's Dr. Frankenstein.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I thought that was fun. I'm a huge Notting Hill fan.
I know
So
you are.
That was another just
Didn't-
looking through the cast. I was like, oh, someone
Didn't you?
from Notting
Didn't
Hill
you go
is in
see the
this?
house when you were in Britain?
Yes, I have been to Notting Hill.
Okay.
Picture.
Do you guys have any final notes about this film? Anything else where you missed that you really? I still didn't hear anything about a Bermuda Triangle that you promised.
Oh yeah. So, how fast can these clouds move?
Very fast.
These clouds were moving so fast, and like it wasn't like,
Gale force winds.
dude, it wasn't like a small cloud passed over the sun or the moon and it like blocked it quickly. It was like we saw the sky. It was it was blacked out. Okay, but while these clouds are moving, not 30, we also are on the stroke 2 of midnight. I mean, with Hugh Jackman, when it's a stroke of midnight, he has 12 seconds in theory, right, to take out Dracula. That was a 30-minute fight scene.
Not only that, man, before that shit happens, like in, I don't know how much time in the movie, but at the actual runtime, it's like maybe a minute before, it is a thunderstorm. It is pouring ass rain because they need the lightning to jump up the monster to bring the babies to life. And they're on the bridge, and Igor's chasing after what hump? Igor's chasing after Friar Carl and Kate Beckinsale Spider-Man's across the chasm past like the fucking bridge, and Carl throws her the syringe of werewolf antidote, and she catches it mid-swing in pouring ass rain.
God, I forgot the whole thing with the vaccine.
Yeah, dude.
That was kept in like that orb in like a whole separate room.
It was kept in extremely viscous super acid.
Just in the middle of a room, like how they have like the crown jewels.
Yeah, dude, and they have Igor like show them where it is, and then Igor's like, "Ha ha! You tried to get Igor. Igor get you."
Yeah, we're done.
I think we're done.
I hated this movie. 29 out of 100 was my original score, and that was too nice. I'm going to drop it down. 19 out of 100.
Wow.
After talking about it all and hearing the highlights, 19 out of 100. I hated it.
Which film is worse, this film or Malformed Men?
So, funny enough, I gave Malformed Men a 29 out of 100, and I gave this film the same score initially when I was taking my notes. But after talking about... So here's the thing about Malformed Men. When I look back on it, there's a part of me that feels like I let the film down. You know what I mean? I don't
know what you mean.
I feel like there's part of me that was like trying to take notes and like talking amongst ourselves, and like maybe I just didn't get it. But that's that fart smell cinema that I fall victim to. It's like so well revered, and it's a classic. Like,
to be fair, the first half of that movie wasn't that bad.
Okay, and the whole
Van Helsing is pretty bad.
Okay. And so that's what I'm saying is like, you know, anytime something is like, oh, it's a plan, blah, 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 like I'm a sucker for that. Okay, I can't help but be like, even after watching it and hating it, being like, well, maybe I just didn't get it. It's not the movie, it's me. And so like, even though Malformed Men got a shit score from me, like at least it had this like weird Jodorowsky-esque like theater stage like movements and dance sequences is like a la Bollywood, and like there was like some cool art direction, and like they at least tried something new. None of this was new, and all of it was worse than every other iteration of it prior, and it all sucked. Like it was a good looking cast. There was a decent score. I wanted more cool James Bondy type of like if this would have just been simply more over the top and indulgent in the action-esque qualities that it had.
You don't think there was enough action in this movie?
No, I'm saying that like if you would have
more fight scenes?
If you would have replaced the 3 different exposition dumps with just a fucking flaming arrows.
You could have replaced the exposition dumps with nothing. You could have just cut them out. It would have been a better movie.
Or like an R rating, or just like something.
No, they weren't going to do that because this.
I'm not saying what they were going to do. I'm saying what would have made it better. Earlier, you asked me like blah blah blah. I'm just saying like if you could have given me something other than setting up movies that never came to exist, then it would have been better. This movie sucked.
It did suck.
This was horrible.
And I agree with you. There's like more gore or like some kind of graphic kills, or like, and it was R-rated, like it would have been more fun.
Mm-hmm. Fun.
It would have been more fun.
You guys always shit on me. I feel like I'm looking at you, Rob.
Yeah, I do.
You always give me a hard time. I love the Hatchet series because it doesn't take itself so. It's like, and I was watching an interview with the creator. Damn it, I can't remember his name right now. But he's like, you know, I make movies, gasp, that are like fun and entertaining, like something that you go and view, and it doesn't have to be all like dark and dreary and horror forward and kills. Like we just try to have a fun movie, and this movie should have been more fun, but it was too long. It was too dry. There was no chemistry between the 2 leads. All the stuff that I wanted more of, I was only teased with. And like they slapped a PG-13 rating on it to appeal to a wide audience to sell more tickets to movies that would never be made. Like everything about this was just a swing and a miss. There was like elements of this that I could have really gotten behind. I love those monsters, as I've mentioned. Even the opening, I was like, okay, cool. Like if we're gonna get some silly Hugh Jackman fighting these monsters one by one, that'll be great. But then like you just hand Carl the Friar and like the Vatican's underground secret society of whatever, and the scripture and the Gabriel and
or how Dracula's been around for 400 years, but all of a sudden now we need to deal with him.
Yeah, man, it's just like
Take care of this guy.
all of it was just I didn't care, and it could have still been a shit movie that was a lot more fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It could have.
Like The Mummy.
So 19 out of 100.
19 out of 100.
Bill?
I was leaning towards a 25.
You guys are usually pretty close, so.
Which I think I'll stay with. I usually these talking through them usually makes me want to bump them up points because like there's shit that I forgot or didn't think about it that way. But no, I'm definitely keeping this one at a 25. It was not enjoyable at all. It was corny as hell. All the characters were uninteresting. This was just not fun.
25? Okay. That's fair.
Rob.
I was going to give it an 82. No.
Jesus.
No, of course I wouldn't give it an 82 because I don't score things out of 100. That's insane.
Week 8. It's a week 8.
Week 8? Really week 8.
Realistically, man. Yeah, it's somewhere between a 2 and a 3. Let me think about it while I'm talking about it, and I'll give you an answer at the end. Again, like this movie, it's not that long. It feels longer than it should because of the exposition, because of all these kind of drops in action and shit.
Yeah.
It had this, like Michael, like you were saying, like it had kind of this weird balance between like horror, camp, comedy, action that did nothing for me. Like it's a bad movie. It's a hate watch. It's fun to like shit on it and stuff, but I don't like the source material. I don't like the original Universal monsters, so that has no attraction to me whatsoever.
Have you seen Underworld?
I saw the first one years
Celine
ago.
is such a better character than Anna Valerius, though.
And it's
Like it was
crazy
so
'cause it's-
upsetting to see Kate Beckinsale just phone in some bullshit. God, don't get me started on how much this movie sucked.
However, the Underworld movies, you can't see anything that's going on because they were shot in complete and total darkness. So at least you can see what's going on in Van
Well, if I
Helsing.
saw
This movie
less
would have
of
been
Van Helsing.
better shot in complete and total darkness with like no audio.
Yeah. Oh, so just 2 hours of black screen.
But knowing that they're there.
But this film, like, again, like it's all exposition set up for stuff that didn't happen. The things that are going on make no sense. They're like very, very barely tied into the original mythos of what's going on. And again, like the kind of comedy slapstick, like the Rock'em Sock'em Robot Frankenstein scene. Like, what the fuck is that?
There could have even just been more of that.
Yeah, or
too,
lean one way or the
right.
other. Either be really serious with a couple jokes or be really jokey with a couple serious scenes.
It wasn't enough of anything.
But splitting it 60-40 is not a winning combination. So I think
Especially when so much of it was just middle of the road too. It wasn't even like good 60 and good 40
No.
that just kind of made for a movie. It was like
so I think realistically this is a 2. This is a 2 out of 10 because we've watched other films that were shitty movies but more fun to watch.
Oh,
than
oh,
this.
definitely.
Yeah. I was trying to think about Bats and I was like, Bats is a better movie.
Oh, Bats is
It's also shorter.
much more enjoyable. Yeah, if this was an hour and 20 minutes, I don't think I would have so much hate for it.
Yeah.
And that's about 3 exposition dumps less of a fucking
Of a
film that
fucking
we could have
film.
watched.
Well, there's not a lot going on in Bats.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Good.
yeah,
but
there was too much going on
There's
here.
way too much going on, man. Yeah. Again, it's crazy how a film like this, a bad good film or a film that's bad but fun to watch, when you hit that 100-minute mark, all of a sudden I cannot stand it any longer. Like, be done with this film. So end all be all, don't watch this movie. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's really bad.
If you did watch this movie to listen to this podcast, I apologize. I'm very
Yeah, I
sorry.
think we're really selling it, so.
I specifically told him not to.
You
Our
did.
one listener.
You did, yeah, our one listener. Thanks, Elmers. You guys have been great. You guy, you've been great. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye, Andrew.
watch 2 films. Come on, watch 2 films. If you scared, don't come over here. 13 and M. 13 and